Rabbi Sifko, what's that thing on your foot? What do you have? Earmuffs over there? What's that all about? Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Klugman, or Dvori, whoever you are. Rabbi Khan, Boker Tov. Morty, it's nice to see you. Rabbi Marsden, it's nice to see you. Rabbi Levin, it's nice to see you. Where's Dovey? What's going on with Dovey? He's having a problem? Dovey, you have to press the on button on the computer to turn on the computer. You press on. Rabbi Rachkin, you know there's a brother of yours who's watching the shir. Platzker, it's a very, very intense picture of you. I'm very spoiled. Shalom Yankiv, Shalom Aleichem. Good morning. Rabbi Silverman, nice to see you. How come I get like the little rectangle backs of Rabbi Silverman over here? What is this? Why can't I get the whole picture over here? What is this? What's going on over here? No. You're like in a rectangle. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. You guys hear me or you don't hear me? You all hear me? Everyone hears me, right? Rabbi Silverman, you hear me all the way up there in New York? They hear me all the way in New York? Really? Unbelievable, this, no? Now the Spitzers are here and the Spitzers are here. And Toby's figuring out how to use a computer. Murder. Who else is over here? Oh, you mean there's more screens I can see you guys? Rabbi Elbazir, Slansky just joined us. He's wearing some kind of bathrobe. Very nice.
Rebbe should click on the button chat, then Rebbe will be able to see all the chats as they open up.
That's what you mean. Got it. Okay.
Did everyone get like 10 emails today or no? Just 2. Venus, you got any emails or 1?
I got 1 email.
1 email. Okay, we have issues. Some got 2, I got 10, he got 0. Okay.
I love Rabbi Kallus.
No, sorry, I got 4. 5.
Beis Levi loves Rabbi Kallus. Beis Levi loves me? Rabbi Rachkin, Aaron, you have a brother over here, so you know, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Where's Moshe Kallus? Does Moshe Kallus know that he's now related to me? We have to talk. Moshe Kallus, we'll talk after this year. I don't think you realize that we're like first cousins 35 times removed. Talk after this year.
Are we ready to start, Rabbi?
I'm ready to roll. You guys all ready? Okay,
Yes.
everybody say. Okay. It's nice to have you all back. Let's go, Bezos Hashem. I want to, like I always say, I'm going to chazer a little bit what we spoke about yesterday. But as you all know, that when I give a chazara, it's kedai to listen. It's probably kedai to listen to all chazaras, but it's certainly kedai to listen to my chazara because ein beis medrash b'lei chiddush. And I'm just going to set it up in a little bit of a different fashion, and also maybe to try to come halacha l'maisa. It's a lot of what we spoke about yesterday. But let's kivyachol again. Let's start over in these few days of Bishul. In the beginning, in Akdamas, I want to olam that we should all be equal. Once we're all equal, so then it's very simple, and I guess we'll decide who's going to give the share. But let's at least get to the point of where we're all equal. Once we're all equal, it'll be much easier. Lots of the concepts that we have to discuss. For example, I saw yesterday a sefer that has a whole ganze shtickle Torah. It wasn't a sefer; it's like one of these little journals, and they print shtickle Torah. And there was a whole shtickle Torah that this journal printed. Just put the receptor on the table. There was a journal that printed close a little bit over here. That printed like this, a shiloh, perfect. A shiloh like this. That maybe when you make ice, you should be over on Bishul. Why would you be over on Bishul when you're making ice? So the time is that because if you're going to go with, we'll see soon that the electricity is a tzad shiloh, that maybe electricity is considered an eish. And since electricity might possibly could be considered an eish, so since there's a tzad, a shiloh, that maybe electricity is considered a fire, so he says, look, how does it work when you take ice, water, you put it inside a freezer? You take the water, you put it inside a freezer. The electricity, which is a koyach, we'll see soon what the idea of this is, but electricity might have some koyach considered eish. So now you're taking something soft and going from soft, a liquid, to a solid, al yedei eish. And l'chayr, that's what bishul is. The Rambam tells us that to take something soft and to make it hard, so then that would be called bishul. That's what this sefer ponders. He has a whole nidin to discuss it. He wonders why the other acharonim only donned on the shiloh of ice and only donned the shiloh of noilad when they should have this shiloh. Now, the emphasis is that this is a Tayis Gemura, because Bichlal, the whole thing is not really in the Negeya, because it's not the electricity which is making the ice. What's making the ice is the electricity is making the ability for the freezer to become freezing, and the freezer itself is what's creating the water into a shtik ice. And the Avanda, that's Avanda not considered an Aish, a chimum, which is changing something from soft to hard. It's that the Aish did something to something else, which now makes something go from soft to hard. And we're going to see in a moment if really electricity is considered an Aish. But what's more negeya, what we spoke about yesterday, is that it's pashit that the only time that we're going to say something is called bishul is when the koyach of the chayim is being poyel the shinui of the chayfetz. That's the first yesod that I want everyone to know when we discuss bishul. Bishul means that we're using the koyach of chayim, of heat, and we're taking the koyach of chayim and changing an item. We're doing a change into an item. Before I continue, Dani, does everybody see me and everybody hear me perfectly?
Yes,
Good.
very good. Baruch Hashem.
Good. I see you and hear you all perfectly also. That's number one. Yesod number one is that there's never no suffix in the world that if I take water and I make water go from soft to hard in a freezer, that there's no shaila, that's not in the shaila of bishul, even though I'm using in an indirect way a koyach of electricity, which is making something go from soft to hard, but that's no shaykhs to bishul, because bishul means using the koyach of chayim, of heat, and having the koyach of the chayim, of the heat, change the item into a different item, maybe from soft to hard. But there's no shayla that would not be considered bishul. Number one. Number two, which is the site that we laid down yesterday, which I want to explain to the Olam. Number two is that in order for something to be considered bishul, bishul means that you have a tikkun in the Michael. And this is the side that Rav Moshe Zechariah told us. Bishul is not just that I change an item, I make an item go from soft to hard, hard to soft, even I day heat. It has to be a change that's considered a tikkun in the Michael, a tikkun in the item. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Michael. Like we saw yesterday, it could be matches, it could be metal, but it has to be a tikkun in the Michael. Like for example, if you have something that already goes from, let's say when it comes to meat, and you take a food that was raw, and you change that food from raw to Michael ben Drusai. So then that would be an example of where Chaim created a tikkun in the Michael. Now it went from non-edible to edible. We also paskin that to go from Michael ben Drusai to go up to Mavushal called circle, we'll call Michael ben Drusai a third cook, a half cook, and to go from there up to Mavushal called circle. So then that's considered also a tikkun in the Michael. That means the Chaim did an uftu in the Michael, which is a chashav uftu, and transferred it from going from a soft enough, well, in this case, hard enough. It was still hard enough that it wasn't roy and properly misukin. And it went now to make it from being hard, not as hard as before, but making it from a hardness that makes the hardness go to a softness, which made it even more edible. And that's a chiddush, that's considered also a tikkun of a nature that the bishul did a tremendous uftu, a tremendous shina in the item, which made it considered a bishul and a chashav tikkun. For example, that's not true if the item is already fully cooked. We know that once an item is fully cooked, you take a cholent, which is fully cooked, and you leave it on the hot plate, you leave it on the fire, whatever, you leave it on the fire, and you go now, and it goes from the Mavushal kol tzarcha, we'll call it 100% to 120%, which makes it even softer and more gishmak and more yummy and more bishul. So that tikkun that's taking place now doesn't have a chashivas to it. We'll have to see what the gedarim are that are considered chashiv and not chashiv, but you understand that bishul means I'm taking chaim and doing a shinoi, which chazal or keveya has a value. Soft to hard, hard to soft, edible, non-edible to edible, even if it's slightly edible to totally edible. But when something is totally edible, to make that tikkun ayudei chaim to go to more than totally edible, that already doesn't have the value. And that's why, for example, this is something which is extremely important to point out that, And the Bir Halacha already in the beginning of the Simon talks about this. It's something that we have to keep this in mind, that there's something called Kirav Bishul. This is like the worst type of Kirav, if I say. There's something called a Kirav Bishul basically means that right now, if I have an item which is, let's say, 75% cooked, or 25% cooked, or even 85% cooked, and that reality, a lot of times you'll have a cholent, where the cholent is, you touch the potato, and the potato is still hard. I can eat it, but it's definitely hard still, and you say to yourself, it's not done yet. It's 85% done. To go from 85% cooked potato to 100% cooked potato is bishul, the way we pass it, bishul deraisa. The Halacha discusses this in Sif Dalet. That's called kirav bishul. This is why Rav Henkin Zichron Levracha used to tell people, even if you have a blech, and we know once you have a blech, you're allowed to put down even raw food on Erev Shabbos, because once you did it on Erev Shabbos, there's no problem. Rav Henkin used to say, it's still kedai to make sure that the food should be fully cooked as of Erev Shabbos. This is a milo. This is not a locha. This is a milo, because it's very rare that it's very normal. It's very common for a person to monkey around with a pot. I'll just give you an example. You take off the chicken soup to have on Friday night. The cholent pot was a little bit at the edge, and now you want to push the cholent pot over, either because you don't like it on the edge or because you want to make it closer to the fire. The closer you're making it to the fire, so now it went from 85% cooked to 100% cooked. Instead of in 1 hour, or in 2 hours, instead of in 2 hours, it's going to go in 1 hour. So that's called kirav bishul. Or if a person would take off the lid, so now, right now, when the lid is off, it's going to take, you open up the lid, you're not thinking, you just look inside, and you see it's 85% cooked. So now if the lid would stay off, it would take 5 hours for it to get fully cooked, or 4 hours to get fully cooked. When you're going to take that lid and put it back on, the lid traps the steam, and instead of cooking in 4 hours to become fully cooked, it now takes an hour to cook to become fully cooked. That's called kirav bishul, and that's an issa deraisa. Why is it not grama? There's a whole shaila. It has to do with the fact that that's a maisa be a dayim. It's more of a garni. But this is why Rav Henkin Zichron Levracha used to say that it's not kedai to have food fully cooked, meichel ben risai cooked, only a third cooked, only a half cooked, because people inevitably are going to play around with the fire, not the fire, but at least with the cholent and etc. So therefore, it's always kedai to have the fully cooked food on Erev Shabbos, even if you have a blech. But that's not halacha. That's just practical eitzah. That's number two. Number one is it has to be chaim that's affecting the shinoi. Number one. And number two is it has to be that you're creating a tikkun in the meichel or a tikkun in the item. And this is why the achreinim dan the shiloh of bones. I want to go back into the shiloh of bones a little bit more bechazara, but a little bit more to understand Rabbi what we spoke about yesterday. And I think you'll get a bit more of appreciation for it. What's the din? We'll start over as if we didn't learn it. What's the din of when I have, what's the shiloh here? What from 51 to 75 for sure is a problem. That's a very good question. I'm being asked, I keep saying going from a third to a half, or from going from 0 to a third, or 0 to a half, or a half to full. But the question is absolutely right. Even if you would go from 1/3 to 2/3, or 2/3 to 75% to 85%, everything is more bishul, because we don't know exactly when the tikkun is considered a full tikkun. Now, there is something that we're going to have to talk about. Mitzamik v'yafaloi means it's 100% cooked. And once it's 100% cooked, so then that's already Dunsky. And even if you go from 100 to 125, that's no problem. There is a shiloh we're going to have to talk about, is that what is called fully cooked, right? Now, I know that this is something that, every good man likes to talk about, but when I grew up in the old country, so then most people like having steak well done, burnt, that in the old country. I think it changed, and a lot of people today, they like it medium rare, and some people like it raw, and some people even eat sushi and all these types of stuff. And we have to get to a point where we figure out what's the lumdis of when I say something is medium rare. In essence, what I'm saying, even if you would tell me that 90% of the population says medium rare is how I like my food, right? But what's he saying? We have to get to the lumdis. Is he saying medium rare and therefore it's done, and everything else more than that is considered in halacha mitzvah v'yafalai? How do we kaveya? Do we look at what most people would eat when they want to have a steak, right? Do we say that's called it's fully cooked because Roiva the people would now eat it at this point? Or no? Maybe we'll say that that's not what he's saying. He's saying it's medium rare. He's saying I like it when it's not fully cooked. It's an interesting shaila, right? Rabbi Katzman, what's chas v'shalom? What's the mitzvah virala? Oh, you're not in the new country. What's the shaila here? I'm not following the shaila. Rabbi say.
If the steak is more than medium rare, then it's. I mean, if it was chametz, it wouldn't be right achilas kelev on Pesach.
But yeah, well, no. But the question is that how are we going to don? How are we going to don? No, just no one likes burnt steak. I'm being told of here. But look, this is something I want to don on. We have to bring rayas to this concept. It's Hashem. We will go back to that. As Hashem, we have to get back to that massive. As Hashem, I'm going to talk about this. As Hashem, but Akopanim, it's not clear to me. I must tell you. I think that most people, when they say the word medium rare, they mean I like it not fully cooked. I'm not 100% sure about this, but let's Bez Hashem. Let's Bez Hashem. Let's try and get it. Akopanim, bones. Let's talk about bones. So, l'chayra, if I have cholent and inside my cholent I have bones, and they become softer. So then we just, if you had to start the sugya over again, so then I would say that we're going from fully cooked to, we're going from something being hard to something being soft. So it should come out that if I took off my lid and all of the food was fully cooked, except for the bones inside. Rabbi, can I just ask you one thing? My chat is on the side and it bothers me to see it on the side. I'd rather see it on the bottom. How do I get it back to the bottom? I just press chat again?
Press the little X in the top left corner.
If I press the little X, then I'm afraid the whole thing will go, no?
Of the chat.
Chat will go bye-bye, just on the chat.
Are you sure? If I press that, the Zoom is going to go off.
No,
the X
or
is on the
just
top right.
the button chat. Press the button chat on the bottom. We'll also make it disappear.
I pressed her, and now it says something about Alt plus H. Who's an Alt H? What is this? What's going on? Why are you guys laughing at me? All right. If I see now, I'll see a chat, you mean? I like it when she's on the bottom. I don't like it when it's... All right, let's go weiter. Upon him. See, now I'm not seeing anybody. Nobody's messaging me anymore. I feel unloved. Anybody have an idea for me?
I think it's no leave me.
No, I'm afraid to do that. No, you see, I'm getting those responses on the side now. All right, I'll deal with it. I'll keep it on the side and then we'll deal with it tomorrow. Akapanim, it's fine. Everybody hears me? We're all good? Everyone sees me?
All
Everyone
good.
hears me? Let's go back there. Okay. Akapanim, if you have bones in the challenge by side and you took off the lid, and now you want to know, am I allowed to put the lid back? Because for Shteitzach, if you're going to put the lid back, those bones, if you're going to tell me that they're in there, they certainly get softer. And if this is 12 o'clock at night, so by the time that 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning comes, so then there's no shaila that those bones are going to be much softer. So you took something and made it go from hard to soft. And just like the Rambam says, if you mavashal matris, if you cook metal, so then the chayra, it's what in the bones. But see what we just saw, our first reaction should be that the aleph phase of Bishul is that Bishul has to be a ticket. Bishul has to be a tayelis. If I take something that has no toyelis and go from hard to soft, so then who cares? And the chayra bones should be the same thing. If bones was not an edible thing, and nobody eats bones, which we'll go into that kash in a moment, but if nobody eats bones and you took something and you made it go from hard to soft, there's no benefit in that. So then that would be the aleph base. That Bishul means, and that is the side that Rav Moshe Be'emes laid down for us, that in order for something to be Bishul, it has to be a ta'elis that I went from hard to soft. Well, if people don't eat it, so then there's no ta'elis. So I saw one sefer that he writes like this. He writes, Chayra bones is a problem. He says, first of all, you're going from hard to soft. And the Rambam says, matris. Okay. Then he writes, in your day of, in Hilchos Kashrus, we find that if you have bones, so that if you take bones and you cook it inside milk, so then there's a special Xeris Akosiv that the Gemara in Chulin brings down that if you have bones and you cook it in milk, you're not over on Basar V'chol. It's related to the gelatin shiloh and other such shilohs. If you take bones, the Gemara in Chulin tells us that you're not the bones of a cow, right? And you cook it together with milk. So the Gemara has a special trusha to tell me that I'm not over on Bishul Basar V'chol. So this Sefer writes, so what do you see? You see that you see that the bones, Luyitzor, this Xeris Akosiv, would certainly be called Bishul. Because you see the special Xeris Akosiv in Hilchos Kashrus, that when I take meat and I cook it together with, if I cook meat together with milk, of course I'm away from Basar V'chol. But if I take bones and I cook it together with milk, so then you see that there's a special Xeris Akosiv that says I'm not over on Basar V'chol. Lulei the Xeris Akosiv, cooking bones is yes considered Bishul. So this Sefer writes, therefore, if a person cooks bones, Dani, he does Kira Bishul and he puts on the lid and he causes it to cook faster. So then he's going to be over on Bishul of the bones. Now, again, the truth is that, like we explained, the raya from the Rambam about matchis, that's no raya. The Rambam is only talking about when there's a benefit of making something go from hard to soft and soft to hard, and there's a tikkun inherently making it into a better item, into an item that has value. If I take a bone that people don't eat and I make it into a better value, if people don't eat the bones and I made it into nothing, I just took something hard and I made it into soft. But klapi the raya of the Yeridea, that for sure is no raya. Because klapi the shaila of Yeridea and Kashrus, there, of course I need a special Xeris Akosiv. Lulei the Xeris Akosiv, I would have thought that inside the bones, there's a tam of meat. There's a tam that lives inside the bone. And then the bishul would be because the tam is going inside the milk. The Kamash Malon is that the tam that's inside the bone is so bottle to the bone that it has no chashivas at all. And then when I cook it inside the milk, it's in bottle inside the milk. And therefore, you're not over on bishul. Of course, I need Xeris Akosiv for that. But no one ever said that klape eating the bone, that itself would have been an issue. And this is why Rabbi said that's the starting point of what should be the din of when I have a cholent that has bones. Am I allowed to go and close the lid on it and be able now to let it cook 12 more hours as a result of my maisa, which is going to make it go from hard to soft, right? Just today, Rabbi, I'm having trouble with the chat. So if I don't answer the chat, be mindful of me. I'm going to try it at intervals to look at the chat. But it's a little difficult because the way it's set up on my computer today. So Shlomo Zalman in the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos says brought down, having said that it's asur and that you're not allowed to put the lid back on, you're not allowed to move over the cholent, and therefore my whole eitzah that Rav Henkin spoke about is not going to work, because even if I have the cholent being fully cooked, but if I have bones in there, then they're not going to be fully cooked, and therefore it's not going to even help me to have it fully cooked, because once I have the cholent and I move it closer to the fire, it's going to cook the bones which are inside the fire. Ramosha, we saw yesterday. Moshe in Tshuva Ayin Vav says the first idea that we saw. Moshe explains a tremendous insight. He says, since people don't eat bones, which we'll get to that idea in a moment, but he says since people don't eat bones, so that's what Moshe. Excuse me. So to Moshe, since people don't eat bones, says with Moshe, so then that Vada doesn't have the milo like we explained. And that's in fact that you're making something go from hard to soft, that didn't make a difference, which is why we explained that therefore when you take a plastic cup and you pour boiling hot water on it, that won't make any difference because there's no benefit. And for Moshe's Machadish, that doesn't have a shame of Bishul. Bishul has to be making a tikkun in the gufa item and that it's a maila and a benefit. We don't even look at it since for Moshe as a kilkel. It doesn't have a shame of Bishul. Bishul means that taking a heat source and making something be nishtana to a different item, to a milodika item either, because it's softer, it has a mila, it's hard, it has a mila. And Ramosha goes one step further with this chiddush. Says Ramosha, like we explained yesterday, but I'm going to explain this chiddush. Says Ramosha, if I take a marrow bone or such a bone and I make it soft, and as a result of softening it up through the heat, I can now crack it and get to the marrow. Says Ramosha, that's not Bishul. Why? It says Rav Moshe, Bishul is not enough. It's more like a chiddush, Rav Moshe. Bishul is not enough that Ayidei doing a Bishul, it enabled me to get something, making the item soft to get to something else. It says Rav Moshe, Doimel Adavar, it says Rav Moshe, that if you want to know, is there making a kli? Is there an issue of making it into a kli and making a pesach, making openings? Says Rav Moshe, no shiloh that on a bone, you're not going to be over a mak and patish. And Rav Moshe said that's the only thing that you can possibly be over on is if you're making an opening. It says Rav Moshe, Mashal Mad Davar Doima. It says if I would take a glue, which is it's I take wax, which is surrounding a bottle, and I burn off that wax, I melt it off, I mavashal that. Says Rav Moshe, that's not considered a tikkun in the gufa dover. It's a tikkun acheres. It's a tikkun in a different place. And Rav Moshe says that doesn't have the din of bishul. Bishul is only when I'm doing something which is a tikkun in the gufa dover. That's the idea that Rav Moshe says to us. So the Mela says Rav Moshe. So when it comes to these bones, people don't eat them. They don't have a benefit to them. And the fact that you're ayidei the bishul getting somewhere else, that says Rav Moshe wouldn't make enough gemina. Now, Rosh Zalman, and this is the next Tshuva in Rav Moshe. In Tshuva Ayin Zayin, like we said, Rav Moshe asked Rosh Zalman, what's he talking about, the chalal? And Rosh Zalman told him, here in Yerushalayim, we eat them. Rav Moshe goes on to say, well, if in Yerushalayim they actually eat them, so the Mela says, Rav Moshe, no, then if in such a makim, the person actually eats them, so then says Rav Moshe, it could be that makim, it's called oichel, which is a sugya really in Tumah V'Tayra, that in such a place it's called oichel because the people actually eat the bones. Says Rav Moshe, in such a place like in Eretz Yisrael, then taka, if you would be putting the challah pot closer to the fire, and you have a benefit in it, and you eat the bones, so then that would be called oichel. But says Rav Moshe, let's say you're in America. This is already the chiddush Rav Moshe we didn't speak about yesterday. If you're in America and you're doing this, so Rav Moshe has a tzad to say you're butler daita. If they're in America, nobody eats the bones. So says Rav Moshe doesn't have a shame of oichel. The fact that you have the mishigas that bones is something which is edible, if everyone around you considers it not food, and that says Rav Moshe, that's not going to be considered oichel. And then we go back to the regular gedara that you did a benefit, which isn't called a benefit. That's a big chiddush in Rav Moshe. It's a very big chiddush in Rav Moshe L'maisa, because it's a great chiddush. L'chayra, you could have heard that if you have a whole country that the people eat bones, right? As Rav Moshe is taking on that in Eretz Yisrael, right for the people eat bones. So in Eretz Yisrael, we could have done that in Eretz Yisrael, if the people eat bones and you're of the miyat that does not eat bones, I would say a butler daite that direction. And that in this country, it's called food. The fact that you don't consider it food, I wouldn't care. If you go to America, and I would say you're of the roy that doesn't eat, so then you're okay if you don't care. But let's say you're a miyat that does eat the bones in America, you like the taste of the bones, is it so much that we would say bitla daite? Or would I say that there's one place in the world that considers it food, and I machshiv myself for that place? Once there's a makom chashuv enough that does it. This is a very big sugya of bitla daite, and Bez Hashem, I do hope to come back to it. But before I come back to it, I do think that to soften the shiloh a little bit, just to soften the shiloh, because Shlomo Zalman did say it's usher in Eretz Yisrael upon him, and I would have thought something like this. The truth is, there is a big pell over here, and this is where I start the shir. There's a big pell over here. Rabbi said bones in the cholent is not a new thing. In the Haim, the Ali Eden, they have bones. That was the normal thing. Most of the people didn't have enough money to have proper food and meat, etc. And what did they put inside the cholent? They put bones, whether it was the big bones, the thicker bones, whether it was the fliegelach and the zachin, etc. Right? But Akapanim, bones in the cholent is not a new thing. Why is it that until Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, until Moshe Feinstein, for thousands of years, a microwave is an ayazach. If you find the Mishnah Berurah that talks about a microwave, it means you're reading the wrong page. That's the part of the dirshu. You're not reading the part of the Mishnah Berurah, right? But a bone, Sinishkin ayazach. How do I know a bone is not an ayazach? How do I know? Because it's excised in one place where he discusses. There's a whole mice over there with the about the butcher and the bones. They got a story over here. But you see bones of the Gahat Tucker. They had bones in the hive, right? There's also psukim that talk about bones, right? But the Olam probably doesn't know psukim. But there's already, bones is not a new thing. So bones in the cholent is probably also not a new thing. If I say bones in the cholent is as Yerushalmi Kogel. So why is it that until Shlomo Zalman, no Mishnah Berurah, no Paisik, no Magen Avram, no Taz, no one, no Aruch HaShulchan, no Paisik ever in the history of Klal Yisrael ever done the Shiloh. Right? I'm going to wait for 1 minute if anybody has an answer to that Shiloh before I go what I want to say. Right? By bones, we don't look at one guy, but by Vendry side, we don't. We'll talk about that in the Hashem. Which part of the bone we're going to talk about. But why didn't anybody, maybe they didn't have teenage Bachrim who had Shalom on Friday nights. There was no, but they also didn't have food, right? Bones and Korban Pesach, thank you. But Rabbi say, why didn't any of the poskim discuss this? Right? Why didn't any of the poskim, Rabbi say, they should have said, you're taking off your Shalom on Friday night. This entire Gemara's Rabbi say, that talk, the entire Mishnah Brewers and Mishnah Gimel, that talk about Chazar. And they talk about that if the food is fully cooked, you're allowed to put it back onto the fire. Why? The Shalom had bones. It to me sounds like Rabbi Slansky says, push it like Rav Moshe. But you're going to have a problem, Rabbi Slansky, because even Rav Moshe said that he agrees to Shlomo Zalman in a place where people eat the bones. So now we're in big trouble, Rabbi Slansky. Now we're in big trouble. Right? How can you say push it like Rav Moshe? Rav Moshe also agreed. In a situation of where they eat the bones, it's Sarchi and Gadol. It would be mashma from over here that there's something about bones that is different. Now, I'm going to say a chiddush. You all know I've never said a chiddush in the history of the Kotel, right? Maybe because we're on Zoom, so maybe I'm feeling a little bit, maybe, I don't know. But Duvi, you will admit that I've never said a chiddush in the history of the Kotel. I've never heard a chiddush from me. I'm just going to say a chiddush that, I don't know, maybe I should take my glasses with the chiddush, that it would sound like a big chiddush. Maybe once you have a bone which is already soft, once you have a bone which already is cooked into the cholent, and it's cooked to the extent of where the cholent becomes fully cooked. Once the cholent becomes fully cooked, it means that the bone has elamite. Now you're taking that bone and making it go from
We're losing the Rebbe sound. We're not hearing anything. Oh, the Rebbe's frozen. Is Rebbe there? I think we've officially lost the Rebbe.
No, we don't hear Rabbi.
No, he's gone. He's dropped off completely.
Okay, Rebbe's reconnecting, everyone. Rebbe's reconnecting. He'll be back in a moment. Okay, I just told Ilam. Okay, we'll see Rebbe in a minute.
Avi, the floor's yours. How about telling us how to make a good steak or something?
Should we unmute everyone so we can have a group Kumsitz? Say you're all unmuted.
Anytime you just see that guy with like the newscast screen all behind him.
Everyone singing, you have to mute everyone.
I am back, Rabbi Say.
We would have only brought vanilla.
I'm back. Does everybody hear me?
Yes, we all hear Rebbe again.
Does everybody see me?
No. Now we see Rebbe, yes. Beautiful.
Rabbi Say, do you see what happens? The first time in the history of the koil ever that I said a chiddush and the koil closed down. Do you see that? The first time I did, because it could be the chiddush is I'm not scared. I'll say the Chiddush anyways. The Chiddush is that at camera side, at camera that you see that we're being told, Rabbi Isai, Ramoshe's Teveya, Rabbi Rosenberg says. It's true, Rabbi Isai, but don't worry. Well, as Hashem, we'll see if Ramoshe can agree to this. But at camera that we're being taught that the idea of a Bishul, the idea of Bishul is that a shinoi that takes place in the item, which is a tikkun, which is a benefit, which is a mile in the item, makes the item into a different type of item, a tikkun which doesn't have that chashivas, that's already not considered Bishul. And that, who taught us that idea? Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein taught us, if I take water, says Rav Moshe, and I go from 0 to Yatzel lettuce bite, that's called Bishul. Says Rav Moshe, if I take oil and I cook oil, he brings a raya from the Gemara and Shabbos that some of the items did already just now on Daf Yomi, the Gemara and Shabbos, Daf and Beis. If you take oil, there's a Manda Omar in the Gemara that says Shemen Ein by Mishum Bishul. Says Rav Moshe, what's the pshat that Shemen is Ein by Mishum Bishul? Says Rav Moshe, Sivais Techais, that the benefit of oil having undergone the chimum process and becoming boiling hot is not choshev. This is not something that we necessarily can understand. Chazal gave the gedarim of when something is considered such a choshev a change and is considered such a choshev a result and an uftu that that's considered bishul. So Chazal were kaveya, you have to take water and make it yatz lettuce bite. That's called bishul. Chazal were kaveya, if you take something hard and soft through a bishul process through heat, that's called bishul. Chazal were kaveya, if you take something and go from Michael Ben Drusai up to yatz lettuce bite, up to bishul kotzarcha, that's called bishul. If you go from 0 to Michael Ben Drusai, that's called bishul. Now I'm going to tell you a chiddush. From Mavushal called Sarkai to Mitzdamek v'Yafalai, the tikkun in the item is not enough of a tikkun to be considered that you did a result that has a chshivas and that's called bishul. That's not enough of a chshivas result. It's a bizarre Rabbi say. So now if I take a bone and we cooked in the challah to the point of where the challah itself is mitzdamek, is right, called sarkai, and the challah itself is edible, that means all of the time that came out of that bone already came out of that bone. And all of the good neshama of the bone that you've the good taste of the bone has already come out. As I decide, what are you doing now? You're taking that bone and going to a new level. You're making a bone that was hard, and it now makes it soft that you can even chew it and eat it. Right? Who says that wouldn't go into the gedarim of mitzdamek v'yafalai? I wonder from the schema of all the paiskim if that might be considered a mitzdamek v'yafalai. Number one. Now I must tell you that the Shevet HaLevi of Vosner in Gimel Tzadi Gimel Ois Beis, he brings down that his gedarim are a little bit different than Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe seems to say it depends on the country you're in. Rav Moshe seems to say if you're in Eretz Yisrael, then maybe it is called food. He doesn't. Rav Moshe is very vague. He's just really talking about Klapi America. He says if you're in America, then it's not called food. And it sounds like even if you're somebody that wants it, to Rav Moshe. The Shevet HaLevi says the gedarim are totally subjectively. If you want the bones, then for you it's called food. It's interesting. He doesn't seem to misyates to the bit l'daita. If you don't want it, it's not called food. That's how he goes. I saw what Rav Nissen Karelitz says, and it seems to be very mistaber. Rav Nissen's in page 107 in Chelik Beis. He says, if you have a roiv that don't eat it, roiv the people, let's say you're in America right now, roiv people don't eat bones. I think that's a correct statement. Even the little chicken bones. If roiv people don't eat it, then he wants to say that there's no shayla, you don't have to worry about it if you're not going to eat it. But he wants to say, even if roiv people don't eat it, but you do eat it, so he says, now you can't say on such a person it's pit l'daite. He considers himself connected to the people that eat it, and there is enough of a people in the world that eat it, so therefore it would not be considered a pat l'daite. Halacha, the Maisa, I'm not so sure. In America, certainly if you don't eat it in America, there's no shayla, and you can put the lid back on and not worry about it, there's no shayla. And certainly I would suppose that in Eretz Yisrael, you shouldn't be saying on my svar. And if you're somebody in the opposite direction that does eat it, you do have to worry about the problem because you have the roiv and you're somebody that is interested in it. The truth is, in Eretz Yisrael, I don't know what the roiv is. That's another shayla. I don't know anymore what the roiv is. Could be that's no longer the roiv, right? It seems to be the marrow bones in Eretz Yisrael. They don't actually eat the bones, fishy, And if you've been eating the actual marrow bones, fishy, so then not so posh. Right? They don't eat them; they suck them out, and that for sure. But real Yerushalmis do. Real Yerushalmis eat the marrow bones. Really? Well, Rabbi Slansky, as you all see, looks like a Yerushalmi, and he's very knowledgeable in Yerushalmi Zachin. So I don't know. Oh, that's what I said. Yeah, and I got I'm very knowledgeable. The real Kishmaki Yerushalmis, those guys could mamish eat the marrow bones. Those guys could eat horns, Rabbi Yisai. Right? So like that. But upon him, I would want to be moist one more nakuda over here. Again, Tachlis halacha l'maisa. If you're in America, it's certainly a makom to be makel in the general shayla, right? I hope and pray, Rabbi Rosenberg, that soon you'll be back in an American community in Eretz Yisrael, the Karf Mamish. But Akapanim, if you're in America Mamish, I don't know if in Eretz Yisrael, if you're in an American community, I don't know. You guys think Maladafna is American community? There are a lot of Israelis in Maladafna, Rabbi Yisai. So I'm not sure exactly if that's such a politically correct statement, my friends and family. But in America, let's go like this. Tachlis. If you're in America, I think this big makom to be makel. Number one is the Rav don't do it. Number two, even if you do, if you don't do it, even if you do want the bone taste, you have number one. It sounds like from Rav Moshe, it's not called food because somebody in America decides to eat it. Number one. Number two is you have my svara that I think it might just be called mitztamik v'yafalai, and that it could be that even in Eretz Yisrael. But Rabbi said, no one answered my kasha. The theme of all the poskim is no one in the world ever warned about this. So how can it be that nobody ever warned about this? It's mashma klar that nobody cared about this. It seems to be that it wasn't considered a bishul, right? You guys are losing me still, or you hear me now? Now you hear me? You hear me? Good. Rabbi Isai, I want to tell you another thing, Rabbi Isai, which I don't know. I mean, another thing is like this. So now you'll say like this. Yeah, but one way pashid, or one way or the other of a Markstein, you can't say it was pashid that it's food. It's very fair to say it was pashid, it was food, and nobody warned about this because they should have warned that you can't. All the pais can discuss chazara and taking a cholampa and putting it back on the fire. Why don't they say, by the way, when you're putting a cholampa on the fire, you can't do it in the middle of the night because in 9 hours from now the bones are going to become softer. It means that basically they should have told us that on Friday night we can never put back the cholampa, which nobody in the world ever said. It's very fair. The mashmais is clear that bones did not bother the paiskim. I'm very annoyed that Kanira already at the point where the child is fully cooked, the bones that people actually eat are already, I'll say, you know what, Rabbi say, I'll say another story. At the point, there are certain bones, the soft bones that the oil eats, let's say. Those soft bones, and this I have expert information about, real Yerushalmis, guys named Zundel, guys named Cheshin, guys named Slonim, and they all taina that the soft bones that people eat, the soft ones that people eat, those ones, Rabbi say, at the point when the cholent is cooked, they are soft enough that they're crunchy enough that you could theoretically eat them. I'll give them a name. They're klape bones, they're Michael Ben Drusai. Klape bones, they're Michael Ben Drusai. So the male, it's true. By the morning, that bainer is going to be soft enough that it'll be totally soft. So now you're dealing with many, many, many sveikas over here on my side. First of all, maybe Michael Ben Drusai is already called fully cooked. Number two is maybe when it comes to a bone, the edibility of a bone of being soft is enough to consider it fully cooked. And that all the extra miles, since the bone is never really a normal food, all that extra mila of going from soft to very soft, or I guess medium to very soft, that's a mitzvah in the world of a bone. Plus you have my svar that this juice that came out, that's the ikar of the bone, and everything else is just a mitzvah of the bone. Plus you're in American soil where Roy the Tzibur doesn't consider it an oichel, says Ramaisha. So besides, my opinion is in American soil, even if you're somebody that eats the bones, there would be a makom to be makel once the cholent is fully cooked. That's number one. Certainly if you're somebody that doesn't eat the bone, then there's no shiloh on American soil that you would be allowed to put it back. But I'll be moisev noch a svar by side. Another svar that you could add over here is I saw the Minchas Yitzchak in Chelik Ches. He's dance on the bones. He dance on the bones, and he says another svar. He says interesting svar. He Bemis wants to say that l'chayra, it's not a psik resha, right? What does he mean? It's not a psik resha. So he says l'chayra. The Bemis is like this. Let me be moist with one nakuda. The Minchas Yitzchak argues on Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe held that if you take a bone and you cook it to the extent that it softens it and allows the marrow to come out, Rav Moshe said that for sure is not bishul. Says Rav Moshe, why is that not bishul? Says Rav Moshe, because bishul has to be that I'm doing something which is a ticket in the etzem chefza, not that it's opening up a door for me and allowing me to get to a liquid. On that, the Minchas Yitzchak argues. The Minchas Yitzchak says that if I date the bishul, the time is yaitei more. Says Rav Moshe, says the Minchas Yitzchak, that is considered yes bishul. But says the Minchas Yitzchak, all of that time, Zak the Minchas Yitzchak, has mistama come out by the time that the challah became bishul called tzarcha. And so the Minchas Yitzchak is worried that if I would have bones and I would soften them so that the liquid comes out, that would be bishul. But the Minchas Yitzchak says you don't have to worry about that, because by the time that the challah is fully cooked up, the Minchas Yitzchak, you can assume that all the liquid that could possibly come out has come out. But he adds a svara. He says, there's a little bit of time that still could come out. More epis will come out. Let's say it takes 3 hours to get the challah fully cooked. So in 3.5 hours, maybe more juice will come out. Maybe more time will come out. Says the Minchas Yitzchak, Klape that you're an Ein Miskaven. Klape that you're an Ein Miskaven. But he's moist with a beautiful svara over here. It's a psik resha. In other words, I have a lid and I'm putting it onto my challah pot, or I'm taking my challah pot off and then I'm putting it back onto the fire and I'm causing it to now get cooked faster. I'm causing it that it's going to come out in the next half hour, the rest of that time. He says, no, that's Ein Miskaven. It's psik resha. So he says it's considered a suffix psik resha. Very interesting svara. He says it's not 100% that there is any more time. It's not 100% that there's any more time. So he says, no, if it's not 100% that there's any more time, that would be considered a suffix psik resha, where that's a big need in Rabbi side, the Mishabur and Simichin Tazayid, as it's said that a suffix psik resha is going to be mutter, because the regular psik resha is like a case of where I know if I pull a paper towel and I know when I pull it, it's going to rip. That's a psik resha. I know right now that something's going to happen. And a regular Ein Miskaven is when I pull a paper towel and I have no reason to believe that it's going to rip. Okay. What if I have something that I just don't know the metzias? Like, for example, there's flies inside a closet, and I just don't know if there are flies inside the closet. So if there are flies in the closet and I close the closet, so then they're going to get trapped. So that's a knowledge that exists that I don't have right now. So that is considered a psik resha l'sha'avar. It's not the psik resha in the us. That's called a suffix psik resha, and the Mishabur has it said that that's considered Ein Miskaven. As I decide, we can say the same thing over here. We don't know if all of the time has come out of the bones. Says the Minchas Yitzchak, that's called maybe there's more time. Says the Minchas Yitzchak, that's considered a suffix psik resha. If you want more time, that would be Mekavin, but most people don't care about the more time. With that svar of the Minchas Yitzchak, I'm going to steal from the Minchas Yitzchak to go back to our Shaila. The Minchas Yitzchak was using that svar and he was arguing on Rav Moshe. He was saying that if you cook up a bone to get out the liquid, that is called bishul. Rav Moshe said first, if you cook up a bone to get out the liquid, it's not called bishul. That's just breaking something and using the bishul as a means to do something else, which is not called bishul. But Al Kapanim, I just wonder out loud that let's say you have a suffix about the bones. You're somebody listening to this shiur and you don't know b'chalal when a bone is cooked and when a bone is not cooked. You have no idea of anything. You're living in Eretz Yisrael. And you're, again, in America, I'm not going to care so much because in America, you have all the stories we spoke about. But in Eretz Yisrael, you're living in a country that some of the people actually eat the bones. So Bizarre, you're sitting there with your challah pot. You have no idea. I have no idea if this is considered a bone that they would eat. They wouldn't eat. I don't know. So then maybe we could say our svara, it's called the suffix psik resha. Maybe right now, when I'm putting the challah pack back on or I'm putting the lid back on, so I don't know. Maybe that's called a suffix. Maybe the bone is already fully cooked. Elamai, you don't know if the bone is fully cooked, so that's already an Ein Miskaven. It's a suffix psik resha, and therefore halacha l'maisa in Chutz La'aretz. If you want to take the challah off and put it back on, tak izim tehei. In Eretz Yisrael, if you want to take the challah off and put it back, so if you're mekaven, you bedafka are putting it on in Eretz Yisrael to go and soften the bone so that you can eat the bone bedafka. So then the only svar you have is the svar that I said, which is that the steam of the poskim that they didn't discuss the shaila, and therefore I'm noted that it's not a problem. But my svar is not enough to go against all these gedolim who never mentioned my svara. So in Eretz Yisrael, I would be wary to say my svara, and therefore in Eretz Yisrael, the only thing I would tell you is that if you're not interested in it, then and you don't know if it's fully cooked or not, then you can be makel because it'll be at least a suffix creation. Now I'm going to look for one moment and answer some shilas. That's what I would have thought, Rabbi say. But the truth is that hey, nah, it's a klutz kasha. Should I ask it? It's like a klutz kasha though. No, should I ask it? Does everybody still hear me or? Because everybody froze. I wonder if I'm frozen.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. But they see me or they don't see me?
He's moving a bit slower than usual, but that's fine.
I'm moving slower. I'll try to get faster. But I just I'll be nice if one more svara, like a little bit. No, should I tell you the klutz kasha? The klutz kasha is like this. Somebody once heard a shir I gave about bones, and Taka told me, I'm a guy that eats bones. I live in Eretz Yisrael. I eat the bones, love bones, and I take off the cholent on Shaila. I should repeat this for the Minchas Yitzchak. Yeah, sure, I can repeat the Minchas Yitzchak. The Minchas Yitzchak, I'm only stealing from the Minchas Yitzchak a svara. Dani, the Minchas Yitzchak was saying something to argue on Rav Moshe. But by that, the fact that we go like Rav Moshe. He was arguing on Rav Moshe and saying that it's called Bishul even when I'm cooking the bone to get the tam and the juice. That part, he's arguing on Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe said that's not called Bishul. To get out the juice, that's not called Bishul. That's cracking a piece of wax with the Bishul process, not for the chepsa and the shinoi of the etzem zach itself. Okay, on that, let's say we'll argue on Rav Moshe, but the Minchas Yitzchak will steal something because he goes on and says, but how long does it take to get that juice in the bone to get cooked? Where he's arguing on Rav Moshe, he says that amount comes out at the point when the cholent is fully cooked. But he says, you're going to tell me maybe there's a little bit more time that didn't come out. Maybe after 3 hours it's fully cooked, but in 3 hours and a half, there's going to be a couple of dots left that'll come out from Bishul process, which I call Bishul, says the Minchas Yitzchak. The Minchas Yitzchak says that's not called since you're not mekavin for that, you don't care about that, that's called Eina mekavin. You're going to ask, it's a psik reisha, says the Minchas Yitzchak, that's a suffix psik reisha. It's something that, it's not borrowed, nobody can know if, you can't possibly know if there's more time that hasn't come out. That's called a suffix psik reisha. It's a metzias that is there, but that we just don't know. That would be considered something. I'm stealing from the Minchas Yitzchak in Iyar Kodesh, and you are somebody that does not care about the bones at all. And now you don't know if when I put the lid back on or if I put the cholent back on, you have no idea if their bones are cooked or not cooked because you can't go and get cheshen and you can't go and get slanim and you can't go and get stav or stall, and you can't go and get all of our friends and ask them, are these bones fully cooked? So then I bezai and also the sack guy, I forgot his name. But if you can't get them right now to come and tell us if it's fully cooked, so bezai. It's a suffix. What is that? It's ain't a miskavin because I don't plan on eating the bone. I'm talking about a Jew that won't eat the bone. If you're Stall or Slanim or these guys and you actually eat the bone, so for Shteitzach, I think you have to be machman. You can't be saimach on my svar. But if you're not going to eat the bone and you don't even know if it's a fully cooked bone, so then it becomes a suffix psik reisha. Suffix psik reisha. Suffix psik reisha in the Zas Shaila, even though suffix psik reisha is a very big Shaila, but here for sure you can be makel. That's number one. Before I continue, is that crystal clear? Pick up your thumbs if it's crystal clear on both sides. Even though all you guys are freezing, but I hope it's crystal clear. Crystal clear. Good, boys. Now, both sides, let me just tell you one klutz kasha. There was a Yerushalmi fellow I spoke in shul this guy, I forget, he eats the bones. He eats the pot. Both sides, Fregnish, he eats bones. What? He eats his wife. These guys, no games, right? So this guy asked me after the shir, interesting shaila. He told me, I eat the bones. So now I have a big shaila, right? His shaila is that the cholent, I think we need the cord. I think it's, what do you think? I think we're running out of battery, but maybe. His shaila was like this. His shaila was, I eat the bones, I eat all this stuff, right? Is a bizai, if I eat all these bones, so when I take the cholent off the fire, so now I scoop out cholent And when I scoop out cholent, so what happens? L'chayra, now there's less cholent in the pot. Now, let's say I didn't take out the bone first. Let's say it's Shabbos morning and I take the cholent off of the fire, okay? And now there's cholent I'm scooping out, and I didn't take out yet the bone. So what happens? Now that bone is being cooked from the Kli Rishon. L'chayra. It's a klotz kasha. Does everybody understand the kasha? The kasha is like this, Rabbi say. The kasha is, I'll explain. It's a real klotz kasha, so I hope you don't understand the kasha. But the kasha is like this. The kasha is that, let's say on Friday night, Stam is like, let's say on Friday night, I take, let's say I have a cholent, okay? I have a cholent, and I take off the lid, and I start scooping out food. So now, there was a piece of potato and meat in the cholent that I didn't scoop out. You know why I didn't scoop it out? Because it wasn't fully cooked, okay? So now when I scoop out the barley, let's say the barley was fully cooked. So now that's mefurish in halacha that you were over just now on Bishul. Do you understand why you're over on Bishul? I'll tell you why. Because when I took out the barley, the cholent is going to cook faster now, right? The cholent is going to cook faster. The meat and potatoes are going to cook faster now because there's less food in the pot. When there's less food in the pot, the food is going to cook faster now. Right? So, Chayra, just like when I would scoop out barley, if you take out barley and there's uncooked food inside there's a cholent pot that has uncooked food. And I took out, let's say, the cooked food, or I took out any food for that matter. So what's going to happen now? Instead of the cholent cooking in 1 hour, it's going to cook now in a half an hour because I took out food. So now it's going to cook faster. So this person asked the question, which is a gewaltige kasha, right? When I'm taking out the cholent from the pot, I got to take out the bones first. Because if you're somebody who likes bones and the bones are going to get cooked. So now when I take out the cholent, so now the bones aren't cooked yet and the bones are going to get cooked faster because now there's less food inside there. So the walls of are Kli Rishon, the walls of the cholent pot are Kli Rishon, and they're going to go and cook the bones. They're going to cook the bones faster, right? Oh, I see I have some comments over here. Rabbi Katzman just answered the right answer. But does now everyone understand the question? Hey, Todd, you understand the question or not? Yeah? So now the answer is, this question is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Rabbi said, when your cholent is on the fire and you take out food, so now the fire is going to be able to work on the uncooked food, and it doesn't have to work as much on all the food inside the pot because you took out food. So when I took out some food from the pot, so then of course the other food in the pot is going to cook faster because now the fire only has to work on one specific food. It doesn't have to work on that food anymore because that food is gone. So therefore, the more concentrated fire going on your food. So that's why for Shteitzach in that case, Avada, that's Kiruv Bishul. And once you take out food from a cholent pot, if a person takes on a Friday night and they say to themselves, you know what? He accidentally opened up the lid and he sees, the cholent is not fully cooked. So he says, all right, so I'll just take out some food and I'll leave the lid off the whole Shabbos, right? But I still want my cholent, right? So now we tell them that's an Isser Gomer to Raisa because now the cholent pot, even with the lid off, it would have taken, let's say, 30 minutes to get fully cooked. Right now, it's going to take 20 minutes because now the fire has to work less. But Masha'ain came when the cholent pot is off. Rabbi side, what's hotter, a cholent pot with food or a cholent pot without food? A cholent pot was just on the fire, boiling hot, piping hot. I take it off. I take out food. Rabbi side, what's hotter? It was much hotter when the food was inside because the food inside Avada adds to the heat. So when I take out, it's only a svara, Rabbi Zai, when the cholent pot is on the fire. That the fire doesn't make a difference to the fire when there's no food. Now the fire says, oh, all I have to do is work on the uncooked food. So the it's going to cook faster. Is that crystal clear, Rabbi Zai? Eitan, is that crystal clear? I can't see your fingers because somebody's asking me, Shiloh, 1 minute, and you're on the bottom box. Is his fingers up? Eitan, yeah? Oh, good boy. Okay. You got to teach me, guys, how to do these little yellow Indian, what's it called? Finger lachem sachen. I don't know how to do these things. Akapanim. But so Tachlis Abaisai, let's be Messiah over here. I see that I only have about 3 minutes over here. What happened today? We did nothing today, Rabbi Isai. What happened today? It's unbelievable. We didn't get through anything today, right? I don't understand what happened today over here. Why did today? We didn't get through anything over here. We did nothing over here. I don't believe this. It's never happened in history. Nobody move. Let me just say one more thing. We did nothing over here. It's unbelievable. We managed nothing. We didn't learn. What happened over here? I don't even know what to do. We did absolutely nothing, and that's never happened in the history of the Shir, Rabbi Isai. And this, I'm sorry, but let's what's it called? Now, Kapanim is a clear with bones, Rabbi Say. Is it crystal clear at least? Right? Clear. Finger lock. Everybody. Right? Clear. Hey, Rabbi Say. Kapanim. Tachlis. One last thing. I'll leave you with a shaila. Someone came about in the middle of winter's Mangard. It was about 2 months ago. When we were able to walk around the streets. About 2 months ago, somebody came with a shai like this. He took off the cholent pot on Friday night. He took it off of the crack pot. He took the cholent pot on Friday night off the crack pot. He came about 12 o'clock at night. His wife, this Grace Talmud Chacham, she told him, wait a minute. He was a freshly married couple, somebody that never learned Bishul yet, right? So his wife told him like this. His wife told him, what do you mean? You can't take a cholent pot and put it back inside the crack pot. So he says to his wife, why not? It's fully cooked. Why can't I put it inside the crack pot? So she tells him, because what do you mean? You need to have a blech, right? He says, a blech? What are you talking about? The metal around the side is covering the fire. So the metal that's around the fire, so she says, no, and what about in the oven? The oven also is metal covering the fire. That's the fire. It's the Talmud Chacham tells him. So he says, yeah, but migu that I could have put down the blech before Shabbos. So then even if I didn't put down the blech before Shabbos, but migu that I could have put down the blech, right? So then it's considered as if that so his wife told him, Shaykhis migu. First of all, you have a chazaka of never having put down the blech. So to shiloh of a migu b'makim chazaka, right? First of all. Second of all, it's a migu l'hoitzi, right? Because right now, you're trying to take out the cholet, right? So bizai, it's a miguloiti, which Taisus above the mitzvah. Everyone knows in that base talks about shaykhis, right? So they came to be, asked me to be, machriya in the shaila. So I said, why do I want to get involved in shalom bias? No, Philip, why do I want to get involved in shalom bias? So, I told him like this. I said to him, why do we have to fight? I have a simple eitzah. Just take silver foil right now, and you take a little bekel, a little silver pan, and put it at the bottom of the crack pot, and then because that's there's a fire on the bottom, and then you take a silver foil and you put it around like this. No, and then gewaldig, you make a blech on Shabbos. Is there a problem of making a blech on Shabbos? Or voice is it ticking mana? Did I do a ticking mana? I'm taking silver foil. Okay, so we know that there has to be a little bit of air. So you take a couple of silver foil balls, smash them up, put them on the bottom, you put silver foil all around. Okay, if you don't have cut silver foil, it's not going to work, right? But Punkt, I had cut silver foil, right? To a Yid Chesed. So I gave them 8-9 pieces of cut silver foil. You put around there, you pick a couple of balls, put them on the bottom, and you can make a blech on Shabbos, right? Do you like the story, Rabbi Isai? It's a nice story. You see, I'm getting like the finger lock. Make me smiley faces or something. No, so you see, I'm very good with shalom bias and things, right? Right. But the only thing is, so after Shabbos, this young man went back to his koilel, and this Rosh Koilel told him that he doesn't understand how you can make a blech on Shabbos. What is his kasha? He says, how can you make a blech on Shabbos? The Halachos Rambam says that if you mechamim matches, if you take metal and you heat it up, so then you're over on Bishul. So then you're taking metal on Shabbos and heating it up. So how you let it take metal and heat it up on Shabbos? You're taking silver foil, you're taking metal, you're making it a blech on Shabbos, right? So Elamai, they'll say, wait a minute, but it's not going to get red hot. The only time we said is if you take metal and you make it red hot. So he says, no problem. But that's chati shir. The reggae gets the yatsa ledis by, that's already chati shir. It's already chati shir. And this Rosh Koilo, Hitaka, he's a nephew, a great nephew, Akapanim, of the Heilige Chazain Ish. And the Chazain Ish in two places. One of them is in Siman Nun in Ois Tess, says that it's Aser Taka because of chati shir. He says, he goes on the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish and Gimel and Sib Gimel. Over there talks about somebody who has a similar issue and he wants on Shabbos to put down something to block the fire. So he takes a Kedera Rekonis, he takes an empty pot and he puts it on the fire. Hamashkim Babaika V'ra, that his pot is, his food is burning. So says the Shulchan Aruch, take an empty pot and go and put it onto the fire and then put your pot on there. Says the Chazon Ish, it must be talking about an earthenware pot, a cheres pot. Because says the Chazon Ish, if you're going to take a metal pot and do it, says the Chazon Ish, so then you're taking metal, and even though you're not going to go and make it red hot, but says the Chazon Ish, what's enough kamina? Says the Chazon Ish, if you're making it go from a piece of metal to yatsa lettuce pipe, so then that's at least the Chati Shir, says the Chazon Ish. So this, how could Kallus have told him? I was trying to make shalom bayis for both sides. So how could it be? In stomach, when you make shalom bayis, he probably gets the Yad D'Shmaya. So how could it be that when you take metal and you put it around the fire? But the Rabbi say, if the Chazon Ish is right, Rabbi say, how are you ever allowed to take a pot and put it back into a crack pot? How you allowed to take a pot and put it back onto the blech? You're taking the metal and you're making it go from to boiling hot. It's going to get hotter. Let's say you have a warm pot. We hold that once a pot is warm, you're allowed to return it to the fire. So now you're going to make it go from warm to yatsa lettuce by. How could that be? It should be a problem of a chati shir. It's a chati shir. So Rabbi Rosenberg is saying only red hot, but he's tying it to chati shir. So I see Rabbi Lieberman says, no, that's not a chati shir. Rabbi say, that's a chati malacha. Rabbi say, are you allowed to eat meat? You allowed to eat meat? Why are you allowed to eat meat? It's a chati shir. Basar b'chol of the it shouldn't be allowed to eat meat. Are you allowed to wear wool? You shouldn't be allowed to wear wool because wool and pishtin, wool and linen and flax is a problem with wool. It's a chati shir. The Torah says that's not a chati shir, that's a chati malacha. Are you allowed to go 2 amis carrying in Rishus HaRabim? The answer is yes. Why? Because the malacha, the shame of the malacha is daled amis in Rishus HaRabim. Rabbi say, if you take an item and you make it hot and it doesn't get to the extent of red hot, so then that's not considered bishul. You didn't do the shinui in the chefza b'klal. You know what that is? That's like taking an item and going from 0 to under a third. From going from 0 to under a third, you know what that is? It might be a drabanan because Zera Shami might leave it there, but it's not a derais, it's not chati shir. Taking an item and going from 0 to 10% or 5% or 12%, that's not called bishul at all. It's not a chati shir. It doesn't have the shame and the chshivas of bishul at all. It doesn't, you didn't do anything. You didn't change the chefza b'klal. As I bezai, who says that? Goina Gadol of Moshe Feinstein. In Oyer Chaim and Aleph Tzadi Gimel, so says the Goin Moshe, also the Goin the Mincha Shleima in Aleph Yud Aleph. In Aleph Yud Aleph, he says, that's not a chati, das is a chati malacha b'klal. And I was like, but the only thing is that this Yid went afterward. There's a Rav in the neighborhood. He had a lot of fun with this Shaila, and I'll be messiahing with this. I know we went 3 minutes overtime. Danny, do I have 1 more minute? If not, I'll leave it. I need 1 minute.
No,
Do I have
we've
it?
got.
We got 1 more minute,
5
Rabbi
minutes.
Isai. We have, well, I'll give it in 1 minute. Rabbi Isai, I hope you're listening, Rabbi Sutton. I hope you're listening, Rabbi Philip. Listen, Rabbi Isai. And I see you also, Rabbi Gerber. Sikum Tuch Ois. He went to the Piskei Chubis to tell on Rabbi Kallus. The Piskei Chubis, he's a Rav that lives in the neighborhood over here. He liked the Gishmak Shailer of Moshe, the Chazon Ish. I told him, what do you want from me? You're Rosh Koilel. He's Chazon Ishnik. I'm a Yid from America. I'm a Talmud of Moshe Feinstein. I'm Yisham Yid. I'm a Talmud of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. And they held that it's not a problem with Chlal. Rabbi Isai, he went and he told on me. He told the whole story to the Piskei Chubis. And the Piskei Chubis told him, no, Tagid Rav Kallus Shu Asa Ta'ut. Why? Because they were talking about metal. But he said silver foil? Silver foil, that for sure is a problem. Silver foil for sure is a change in the chefza. It's a whole different thing. It's only by metal. By metal, when you take metal and it doesn't become red hot, so you did nothing. And even if you would leave it there all day long, it wouldn't become red hot. And the biggest dry is from a pot that has food in it. What the world is the difference between a pot that does have food and doesn't have food? The Torah says because it can never get red hot. Even if you would leave it there, it would never get red hot. But he says, Masha'en silver foil. If you leave silver foil there, silver foil is different. No? So what do you do now? So I was mamish machshel yid and Issa Derais of Bishul. Maybe that's why I was makabel on myself that the shirim should be in Bishul, so that I could get a ticket on my neshama because I was machshelim. Right? No, so the Maisa, but I tried. I meant well. So I tell you what I did. I took silver foil, right, and I left it in a crock pot for days, for 3 days, Rabbi Isai. 3 days, right? And that silver foil, absolutely nothing, Rabbi Isai. Nothing at all happened to the silver foil except for the fact that it got hot. So therefore, the same exact far, nothing changed, nothing different. And the Aleph base of Bishul, Rabbi Isai, is that you have to do a shinoi in the chepza, that is some type of a benefit in the chepza. And this, Rabbi Isai, is why I don't understand what it says in Rabbi Ribiat Sefer in the 643rd page. And Rabbi Isai, if you need to make a blech on Shabbos and your wife is not buying the whole migu shtickle, and your wife is not buying, and she's fighting with chazakas and mighty shemras and pesach basuach and halakit zaken, you tell your wife, we're making a blech on Shabbos. It's not worth fighting. You have to learn to make psharas in life and to find eitzalach and not to get into machlekes. So you're going to take silver foil. Not that the silver foil has to be cut. If the silver foil is not cloth, even if you want to take it while it's attached to the thing, that's a problem because it could be the silver foil is muksa. That's under the shmiz. But if you have those cut silver foils from before Shabbos, you'll make the blech on Shabbos, the silver foil, and the baisai, the bisayche, tomorrow dike shalom bayis, tomorrow dike shalom, and Bez Hashem, we'll go weiter tomorrow. I miss you all. I'll mute them for 1 minute so I can tell them how much I love them and miss them, Dani.
I did.
Hello.